Yesterday we have discussed something regarding Spinoza, and today I will give a final touch to Spinoza, and I will spark Leibniz as well. Right? You know that Spinoza is a monist. Monism. Monism means one and only one. You can say absolutism. Absolute. Cannot be more than one. This is all about Spinoza's substance. And he gives the example of geometry, that as whole geometry is based on one and only one infinite space, likewise my whole philosophy is based on one and only one substance. Just to understand, you can say that he is God. And here you know that no limitation, no condition, no dependency, no relativity, no LCDR, no limitation, no condition, no dependency, no relativity. Right? It means in his philosophy he has proved one and only one substance. And this was his prime motive. And now you see that I will start in the form of a dialogue. And I will ask 3 questions on behalf of you, and I will give answer on behalf of Spinoza. And you will see that maximum questions in your examination will come on the question number 1, what I will ask. Question number 1. As he said that one and only one substance, infinite substance, just to understand, you can say that he is God. Question number 1 will be relation between your substance, or you can say God, and the world. Definitely this world has plurality. So how you will explain the relation between your substance and the world? Spinoza gives answer and said that identical relation. Identical relation this is. So the question comes, Spinoza sir, don't you believe in cause and effect relation? Spinoza will say no. no cause and effect relation. Because my basic question is, my means Spinoza's question is, why God has created the world? Why he will create the world? Has he had any desire or any motive? If he had any desire, then God is not perfect. And if he has any motive as well, then that motive will be outside the God, and this will also affect the perfectness of the God. Sometimes it appears that emanationism we have discussed about Plotinus. You may be knowing about Plotinus, a thinker of post-Socrates period, 3rd century AD, who gave the examples of waterfall and solar energy. And here you can see some sort of mysticism as well. But Spinoza said that this emanationism is also not possible. All these things you can see in my pre-class material. Because for emanation also, extra space is needed. Water of the waterfall will fall in some extra space. But since in my philosophy, no extra space is there. The substance is absolute, infinite, no limitation, no condition, no dependency, no relativity. So it will be unlimited, unconditional, independent, free. And if no relativity is there, absolute. It cannot be more than one. If any other reality is there, then it will affect the perfectness of the substance. It will make the substance relative to it. No emanationism. Then once again you will ask, Spinoza sir, then what relation do you support between substance and the world? He will say that as many times you will ask me, that many times I will tell you identical relation. Then you will say that Spinoza sir, say something about this identical relation. Try to make it simple for us. We are not being able to understand that what do you want to say? What do you mean by this identical relation? Then Spinoza said that actually I want to say that world follows from the God. What follows from the God. Then you will say that Spinoza sir, we have asked you to make the thing simple for us, and you have made it more complicated. This is also not understandable to me, that what follows from the God? Then Spinoza will say that way you will not understand. I will explain you through geometry, through logic. Because Spinoza has presented his philosophy on the basis of geometry. And now he will say that as you can see in 3 sides and 3 angles and a triangle. 3 sides and 3 angles are identical to the triangle or not? Identical to the triangle means plurality of 3 sides and 3 angles are identical to one triangle. 3 sides and 3 angles follow from the triangle or not? Follow. So he will say that this I want to say necessarily follow from that. That necessarily you can see in deductive logic as well. In deduction, in deductive arguments, the conclusion of the syllogism, of a syllogism, necessarily follow from 2 of its premises. So he will say that as all humans are mortal, Socrates is human, therefore Socrates is mortal. Ram is taller than Sham, Sham is taller than Mohan, therefore Ram is taller than Mohan. If 2 premises are true, then conclusion must be true. It means that the conclusion of a syllogism necessarily follows from 2 of its premises. That I want to say. In a few sources, it is mentioned that Spinoza's God is both material and efficient cause of the world. If 2 things are identical, can you accept the cause and effect relation? The important word is, most important word is necessarily. Necessarily. It is not an optionally, you can say that. Necessarily follows. So you have to see that if with causation necessarily is mentioned, then it is fine. If I say that potter is pitcher, pitcher is potter, can you say that cause and effect relation is there? Can you say that potter is the cause of the pitcher? Definitely not. If every time he is saying that identical relation is there, identical relation is there, then how he could be accepted as both material and efficient cause of the world? That's why his God is not the God of religion. His God is actually a logical God, as I have mentioned in my pre-class meeting. Now my question is a triangle free to express it in the form of 3 sides and 3 angles, or bound? Bound. Two premises of a syllogism are free to express them in the form of a certain conclusion, or bound? Bound. Likewise, if word necessarily follows from the God, then God is bound. Can this concept of God satisfy the pseudo-Christian concept of God? Definitely not. So that's why Spinoza was blamed for being a hideous atheist. You can see in my pre-class material this I have mentioned. hideous atheist. But later on, you can see that I have also mentioned God intoxicated. And that's why I always say that if any contradiction is coming in your mind regarding the philosophy of Spinoza, then this is contradiction of your mind, contradiction of my mind, contradiction of our mind. This is not the contradiction of philosophy of Spinoza. This compliment is given only to a few thinkers in the history of philosophy. That's why he was blamed for being a hideous atheist. It means in any case, he will not compromise with his view that identical relation is there between substance and the world, God and the world. And that's why he will say that God is world, world is God. God is nature, nature is God. God is all is God. That's why he is known as a pantheist. Pantheism. Spinoza knew that this statement will be differently interpreted by different human beings. When I will teach you Indian philosophy, then you will see that I will compare this with Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma. Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma, the statement that is made by Shankaracharya. Not actually made by Shankaracharya, he writes his commentary on this. And Sarvam means all. Khalu means certainly. Idam means this. Brahma means Brahman. Spinoza knew that this statement will be differently interpreted. And that's why even after being a monist and all these, on the basis of interpretation of, possible interpretation of this statement, he talks about three types of God. Although they are not three types of God. Suppose you have no intellect. You means any human being. He has no intellect at all. Complete ignorance is there. Then how he will translate this? God is world, world is God. This material world is God. Is this right interpretation? Is this right interpretation of this statement, God is world, world is God? No. This is not a right interpretation. But one interpretation is possible. That's why you will understand the philosophy of Spinoza according to the level of your intellect. One can understand his philosophy only according to his intellectual standard. If someone does not have any intellect at all, what he will say, this material world is God. So Spinoza said that if this kind of interpretation is there, and what I will say that this is natura naturata. This is natura naturata. Can you say that Spinoza's intention is this? To talk about this type of God? Definitely not. If you have bit intellect, then what you will say that no, Spinoza cannot talk like this. This material world is God. This is not the right translation. This is not the correct translation. Spinoza is not at all a materialist. So what maximum he could be saying that this world is, you can say, body of God, as anybody has some essence. So God will be essence of the world. So that kind of concept, that kind of interpretation, that every material body has some essence like soul. So likewise, Spinoza is saying that God is world, world is God, God is nature, nature is God, means God is not the material world, but the essence of the material world. As any material body has essence like soul, God is essence of the world. If you have bit intellect, then you will say that you will do this interpretation, and this will be natura, naturans. Can you say that this is absolutely right interpretation? Not. This is not. Because both are qualified. This is not the right interpretation. Because if you are highly intellectual, if you have true intellect, then you will say that God is world, world is God. Actually, he is wanting to say about his monism, and you will interpret this in the way ens absolutum indeterminatum. Ens means one and only one. Absolutum means he is absolute. And indeterminatum means he cannot be determined by the attributes. This is the right interpretation, correct interpretation of Spinoza's philosophy, Spinoza's substance, is absolutum indeterminatum. Why? Because he said that determinatio negatio ist, means every determination is negation. Once again, he will take the shelter of geometry. I will say that example of geometry. Every determination is negation. And this you people use in your daily life. Because you know that when you impose one attribute, at the same time, it creates the lacking of number of other attributes. If I say that this marker is black, what does it mean? Okay, this marker is black, but at the same time, this is also having the lacking of many other attributes. It means this marker is not red, this marker is not blue, this marker is not green. Every determination is negation. see the geometrical example, and all these geometrical examples are needed when you are writing your answer. He said that. Suppose this is a space. What will be the attributes of the space? Figures, geometrical figures. And you say that this space has triangle. As you will say, space means substance. Substance means, just to understand, you can say that is God. As you will say that this space has triangle, immediately I will say, you will say that it means this does not have circle. But you will say this is substance, perfect. You will say that no, this space has circle. Next question will be this, it means it does not have a rectangle. You will say that no, this has rectangle. It means it does not have a square. You will say no, this has a square. It means this does not have pentagon, hexagon. At any time, your explanation is supposed to be completed. No. So he said that every determination is negation. And this, as I told you, that you do in your daily life. Suppose someone is highly respectable for you. They may be your parents or teacher, or you like someone, you love someone. And a person asks that, what is the quality of that fellow? Do you ever want to make a particular quality? This is perfect. It means you know that if I will impose one attribute, it will create the lacking of many other attributes. So Spinoza said that every determination is negation. Try to understand the analogy. It means if you want to reach up to the space, your space, you have to erase all the figures drawn. It means if you want to reach up to the substance, you have to remove all the attributes. Now see that I will make contradictory statements regarding this, and as I always say that Spinoza's philosophy is not understandable without justifying the contradictions. Generally, contradictions cannot be justified, but here I say, without justifying the contradictions, you cannot understand the philosophy of Spinoza, and you cannot attempt the questions of UPSC as well. See question paper of 2012, question number 2. 2A. Determination is negation. Then how substance can have attributes? Explain. By explain, you can understand that no need to end your answer with a critical note. It means you have to justify this. How you can justify? Look at me. For this space, try to understand the analogy. On one hand, I can say that this has no figure. Agreed? At the same time, may I say that this has infinite figures. Because whatever figure you will ask me, I can draw. This has infinite figures. That's why the answer of question number 2, Spinoza will give on the basis of attributes. Gradually, you will see that macro to micro question. This was first, and this is macro question, that the relation between substance and the world. And Spinoza is giving answer on the basis of substance only, identical relation, identical relation, identical relation. It means you can say that this space has no figure. At the same time, you can say that this space has infinite figures, because whatever figure you will ask me, I can draw. Now the question is, if Spinoza is talking like this, ens absolutum indeterminatum, determinatio negatio est, whether he is talking about qualified God or unqualified God. Qualified God or unqualified. Because every determination is negation. Unqualified. Any highest reality that is unqualified, abstract. Can this satisfy? Unqualified means no qualities are there, no attributes are there. This is not disqualified. This is unqualified. Unqualified means no qualities are there. If I ask you that, any religious reality, highest reality of religion, is always qualified or not? Always qualified. You will say that God is omnipotent, and due to the omnipotent attribute, God is worshipped. Due to this quality only God is worshipped. If I ask you that God is not omnipotent, would you like to worship that God? You won't like to worship that God. It means qualified God. Religious realities are always qualified. And that's why you will see that Spinoza is compared with Advaita Vedanta, Shankaracharya's philosophy. I will do comparison when I will teach you second one. Unqualified Brahman, abstract. So it means this is unqualified. This cannot satisfy the religious feelings. This cannot be worshipped. You cannot do prayer to this. This cannot help you when you are in crisis. You means devotee. This cannot incarnate himself when the devotees are facing problems. That's why incarnation, reincarnation is the basic concept that used to satisfy the religious feelings. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirvavati bharata abhyuthanam dharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Yada yada, whenever glanirvavati bharata. Glani means defamation, downfall of religion. This is said by Lord Krishna to Arjun in Mahabharata. Bharat means Arjuna. Abhyuttanam dharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Aham srijami, I create. Tat atmanam. Tat means you, means Arjun. I create the persons like you. And what is the motive behind? Paritranaya sadhunam, to save the good ones. Vinashaya chadushkritam. Vinash means to destroy, to kill the bad ones. Dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. This is used to be done in every era, in all the times. Sambhavami means this becomes possible in all yuga, means all era. Means religious realities are needed to be qualified. Then only their worship is possible. And here, Spinoza's highest reality does not satisfy the religious feelings, and that's why you can say that he was blamed for being a hideous atheist. That's why this is unqualified, logical. Scientific. Some sort of mysticism also appears. It also looks like somehow mystical. Mystical, I have told you that if everything is not so clear in Plotinus, I have explained you, mystical. If everything is not so clear, that's why great German thinker Hegel said that this is just like a lion's den, in which we can see the footprints of the animals going inside. No sign of the animals coming out. No sign of the footprints of the animals coming out. This is just like a black night, dark black night, where all cows look black. It means this is just like a black hole, you can say, in which everything goes and submerged and dissolved. Nothing that can come out. But Hegel also said that if you want to be a philosopher, then you have to be a disciple of Spinoza. Without being a disciple of Spinoza, you cannot become a philosopher. If a great German thinker like Hegel is appreciating a thinker in this way, you can simply understand the power and gravity of that thinker. And that's why when you will see my pre-class material, I have mentioned about Hegel, Erdmann, Kuno Fischer, Henry Pollock, Martinez. All these thinkers have done their work. And all these thinkers are very renowned. And if you are mentioned in your syllabus, if you will come into play directly, indirectly, in paper 1, paper 2. So you can say that Spinoza's God is actually scientific, logical. And as I've told you that there are 3 questions. And with this, I will give you the glimpses of 2 more questions. They are comparatively less important. And then I will invite your questions.